Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to take to task another horrendous recording of Prokofiev's Symphony No. 5, the Russian symphony that probably has more dismal recordings than any other. And I don't understand why. It's not that hard to do. It just drives me crazy. Anyway, this one is with the Oslo Philharmonic and Vassily Petrenko conducting on the LAWO label, or LAWO, however they pronounce it. I don't care. This sucks. It's horrible. You know, I have seen this symphony done live and heard it on disc so many times, so badly. One of the constantly recurring problems, constantly, is the handling of the percussion in the coda of the first movement and to a lesser extent in the adagio. Prokofiev asks to have, at the big climax, this is the big climax, the biggest climax in the whole symphony, at the end of the first movement, a dialogue between suspended cymbal and then crash cymbals at the climax of the phrase and tam-tam. They should be the same volume, and that volume should be as loud as it's humanly possible to make it. This is not rocket science. Major symphony orchestras today have thousands of these things sitting around. They've got dozens of sets of cymbals and suspended cymbals and tam-tams, and because they play all this crazy modern music and they need all kinds of stuff, and it's all sitting in the basement in their instrument room or wherever they store this stuff. And conductors don't give a damn. The players should. If the conductors don't, they use the same old stuff for everything, which is ridiculous. Pick the right instruments, play them correctly. I will demonstrate what I have in mind for your delectation. So brace yourself, and I know it's going to sound hideously distorted and all that, but I don't care. I am so annoyed at this terrible performance, and we'll get into the other reasons why it's terrible in a moment. But let's just start with that, because, in a piece like this is a Russian symphony. It's all about spontaneous volcanic passion. And if it doesn't have that, you might as well not listen to it. No one is going to talk about it being a miracle of symphonic form or polyphonic subtlety or all of the other things that allow crappy German symphonies to get away with being classed as better than they really are. You know what I mean? They don't do that stuff, so they don't wow the critics and commentators into thinking that they're really good when they're really utterly bereft of inspiration. But Russian symphonies, they're supposed to be big and exciting and bold. Prokofiev's particularly. Why in God's name can't a conductor like Vassily Petrenko, who just happens to be Russian, get it right? In fact, most of the worst performances I've heard have been by Russian conductors. I heard Gergiev do an absolutely horrible live performance of it. It was obvious listening to it that neither he nor the orchestra knew the music at all. It's incredible. Just incredible. So let's talk about that one section and the handling of percussion. First, you need a suspended cymbal. Voila. A suspended cymbal. Now, most of these, they sit on stands, but, because I happen to be seated here, I'm going to show you how we do this normally. So you take your suspended cymbal and you take El Sticko and you hit the suspended cymbal. Isn't that lovely? Now, there can be an issue because when you hit your suspended cymbal with a sponge-headed stick, sometimes they swoosh too much and they're not loud enough. So it is the percussionist's job to select a cymbal that can create the appropriate level of volume in a concert hall setting against the full orchestra. And if a soft stick doesn't work, then you just take your handy stick, your snare drum stick, this is a snare drum stick, and you reverse it and do it this way. I happen to like that because you get a nice attack. You get that crunch that you want to hear at the outset, and that gives the whole thing an extra oomph that will allow it to penetrate the sound of the full orchestra. Now, the tam-tam is an even bigger problem. And the tam-tam is a problem because, for reasons that passeth understanding, a lot of orchestras today use these large, dark-sounding instruments, and you really have to bang the crap out of them to get enough volume. I don't know why they do it. I don't know what happened. I mean, this is a part where the old Paiste tam-tams are actually very good, and I have one over here, which I probably could have used, but this one will do the job, as you'll hear, perfectly well. And you just have to really hit it. You can't. I've seen so many percussionists, they're so concerned with subtlety. I mean, this is like the raging, hysterical climax of the whole movement. Everything's marked triple forte or double forte. You're just supposed to whack the crap out of it. It's that simple. And any conductor who does not tell his percussion section to do that, or a percussion section that is too dumb to do it, does not deserve to be employed. I'm telling you. So we're in the passage in question, and since I don't have permission to use the recording here to show you how bad it is, I'm going to just show you what it should sound like and what this one really ought to sound like, but doesn't. Oh, by the way, this video is posted as an insider video on ClassicsToday.com. So if you're a ClassicsToday.com subscriber, you can hear sound clips comparing this version to a good one, in this case, Kuchar on Naxos, where he does what you're supposed to do. And what a difference it makes. Whoa. So the orchestra's going along, and it goes bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Well, okay. I was the orchestra. The percussion was the percussion. I think you get the picture, right? It's entirely possible to do this. If any normal Joe like myself can do it, just sitting in their living room, as I do, with whatever percussion equipment happens to be sitting in their domestic environment, then why can't a professional orchestra with a major conductor who happens to be Russian do it himself? Why not? That is the question we need to ask ourselves, don't we? So anyway, that's what doesn't happen in the coda of the first movement. But there are more problems than this. There really are. First of all, tempi. Oh my God. The first movement takes nearly 15 minutes, and so does the adagio. I mean, even Karajan gets through the adagio in less than 13 minutes. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy, especially when the main thematic material of the adagio only consists of a simple tune over a rising arpeggio accompaniment. Dum bum ba bum bum ba bum ba. So he's doing it like a dum bum ba bum bum ba. It's horrible. And again, the climax of the adagio, which has this guy and the suspended cymbals going with screaming orchestration, it's supposed to sound urgent. It's bum, 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 wah, do, do, do. It's so dull. And again, there's no tam-tam. I mean, there is. You can hear it in the background, this sort of like that. It sounds like something snoring under the orchestra. It's just horrible. Horrible. Now, the second movement and the finale are very quick and very crisp, but the backward balance of the percussion really blows the coda of the finale, where you've got the woodblock going, you don't hear that. It's really, really bad. And the sonics generally are quite dim and dull and dry. I mean, there's like no bass. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, Prokofiev without a bass drum is like a frat party without beer. It's like the most important bottom thing that he does. You've got to have bass. I mean, those climaxes with rolling timpani and bass drum and the low notes of the piano going, I mean, None of it comes through. None of it. Is absolutely sucks. This is the worst Prokofiev fifth in years. Here's the picture again. Take a look, folks. Avoid, 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 avoid. Oh, and there's a coupling. The coupling. The coupling is the Myaskovsky 21st Symphony. Now, some of you have asked, why don't you do a talk about Myaskovsky symphonies? Someday, perhaps I will. I think most of them are just dreary. Dreary and droopy. And after a dreary and droopy Prokofiev fifth, you are not going to want to hear 15 minutes of grayish non-happening, which is the Myaskovsky 21st Symphony. It's only 15 minutes long. It's a single movement. It begins with a droopy clarinet solo. It ends with the droopy clarinet solo. And in the middle, absolutely nothing happens. Nothing. It doesn't have a single memorable idea in it. I dare you, go hum Myaskovsky's 21st Symphony when you're taking a shower or sitting on the toilet or something like that. Ain't happening. Just ain't happening. It's completely boring. And this performance, who cares? You've got 40 minutes of horrible Prokofiev and then 15 minutes of dreary Myaskovsky, which even if it were the most thrilling performance in the world, would still be gray and nondescript because that's what the music is. It's just not interesting. And that is the sum total of this utterly wretched, pointless release. Why even bother? I mean, I don't understand it. They should tie these people down, make them listen to a great performance, and say to them, if you're not going to do as well or better than that, stay home. Leave us alone. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Keep on listening to other things. And that, my friends, is all that needs to be said. Take care.